And welcome to Front Row the Podcast. We're very excited to have you here. But before we get going, please remember to like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review if you got value from this week's episode. We can't wait to share with you all the industry peers, all the industry experts, all around professional speaking. And we are super excited to welcome you to this week's episodes. Get your notepad ready, get your action steps lined up, and let's tune in to this week's episode. My name is Elliot Kay, the CEO of the Speaker Awards and Speaker Summit, and you are listening to the Winners Series. I am getting the honour and the privilege to interview all the winners from the Speaker Awards 2025 and 2024. Who knows, we might delve into 2023. But for now, I am joined by Adele. Now, Adele won Best Storyteller, so I'm very excited to interview Adele. For those of you watching for the first time or tuning in for the first time, now's the time for you to get interested in the Speaker Awards. We're in the process of launching them, so get on the either waiting list, or if we're open already, get applying. And we're going to hear Adele's journey to winning the Speaker Awards, what she thought about it, and her whole journey into it. And then we'll find out more about Adele as a person. So Adele, welcome to Front Row Podcast. Beginning of 2026 as we're recording this. How's the year kicked off for you so far?
Thank you very much. So a lot of my work is in education, and the first 2 weeks have been classically bonkers, as they always are. And I've also we've had 2 weeks back in schools. Ooh, and also I've just handed in a manuscript for my second book.
We'll delve into the second books later on. I'm excited by that. So you won Best Storyteller of the Year 2025. Tell us, let's dial back. Press rewind when the both say something like that's my attempt to do big Craig David there. Terrible attempt.
Yeah. I was with you.
Let's talk about
in the 80s,
before you applied or anything. How did you come across the Speaker Awards, and when you came, what did you think? You're like, were you like, yay? Like, what was your general vibe when you first came across the Speaker Awards? Oh, that's okay.
Oh, I can't remember how I came across it. That's really unuseful. But what
great
excited me was the community sense of it, because
yes,
it is a lonely job. And as I've already spoken into, a lot of my work is around education, and I come from teaching.
Yes.
I mean, when you work in a school, you've got an entire village as your workplace, right? You cannot walk down the corridor without acknowledgement that you exist and you're a person and you are known, And so as increasingly I've done more and more speaking work, the loneliness of the hotel room. And I was listening, Elliot, I was listening to some famous people who was it's Grace Petrie, fabulous political folk singer. And she was talking with someone about this weird glamour around the idea of touring and actually the reality of it. And as she was speaking into it, I just thought, oh my goodness, I know that.
Right.
That Premier Inn room, the travel lodge, on your own, getting onto the train afterwards. And this weird juxtaposition in our profession of you can be on stage with thousands of people in front of you. You're really part of this gorgeous human connection, which, let's face it, is rarer than it used to be. Correct. And then suddenly you're in a room on your own in the hotel, or you're on a train going back and you've missed the last train for your connection, and all of that kind of stuff. So what really came across very quickly was, oh my goodness, these people might get this. These people might understand this. And I think that because I come from a performance background originally, my first career, I was an opera singer. So I understand, I have kind of theatre people and performance people in that way, but in this profession, this part of it has felt very alone. And my speaking agent is fantastic. Big up to Claire Rackham, Inspirational Speakers.
I think we've talked, we've had conversations. I can't know her, but I believe we've had interchange of discussions, and we've been on a call. She is a very special person. I've been with her for quite a few years now. And she is so supportive. I'm so lucky to have her on my team. Of course not.
And she doesn't come with me. She doesn't actually come with me. Whereas I felt like the first vibe that came from the Speakers Award brand, for want of a better word, was, here's a community. Okay. That's exciting. And then the next thing I did was check, because it's part of my work and my world. Yes. the diversity of representation of people you have in there, because traditionally public speaking tends to be a certain demographic, and I am very conscious, and it's part of my values, to make sure that I am part of communities in which all different types of voices are being given a platform. And I saw that very quickly as well.
You can call it. I agree with you 100%.
Yes, it does tend to be that demographic. So then I looked into that, which is something I do. I mean, I do that even with like where I'm buying my coffee, right?
Yeah,
It's just a thing in my own values that I want to be a part of communities, giving my money to, putting my votes into places where there is this equity and acknowledgement that we all have different experiences and we all have something to bring.
Nice.
And that's another message that came through really clearly. It was very much...
You can, absolutely.
Can I start speaking into the application
let's
process?
delve into that in a second. So that's so nice to hear, because obviously as a CEO, as someone, the vision behind it, I don't know how it's received, right? I know equally there's skeptics and there's people like, oh my God, awards, no. I've seen that side. You're the first person I've interviewed, out of probably coming on to the eighth person, that's talked about the diversity element. And that's so nice for us to hear. And when I feed this back to the team, because that matters to us. We're diverse, right? Within our team, there's all different sexes and races and cultures, that internally we're very diverse. And it's very important to us that externally, that's also a big part of it, because like you, I'm fed up of white middle-aged men being on stage. I want to see more women on stage. I want to see women lead the room. And women of all walks, and men of all walks, but I'm not completely cutting men out of this picture. So for you to say that gives me goosebumps. And I'm not joking. It makes me so happy. Like if we ended now, that's it. I'm done. Mic drop moment. Right, there we go. Thanks, Adele. Bye. That's really, really nice to hear. And we're glad that's coming across, because equally we get the other side where it's not enough. So it's nice to know that, you know, we're in the right direction. Can we do more? Always. Can we be better? Of course. But it's really nice of you to say that. Thank you.
Yeah. And also, I don't know whether you remember this, but this was, I don't know if it was pre-me applying or I'd applied, but it hadn't happened yet or something like that. But I dropped you an email because I think there was a list of who was speaking in a certain area. Like, I think it was the experts or something or other. And I dropped a reply back, and I think you replied to me. I dropped a reply back just saying, just wondering why there are no women in this slot. And you replied immediately and you said, the host is a woman, and then in the greater context of the whole 2 days, you'll see that there's a big variety. It just so happens this particular slot. And so also I think I appreciate that you were open to have that questioned as well. And I think you've really hit on something that really hit me there. When you said, you know, you're the CEO, you've got the vision, you don't know how you come across. That's me with my business. Like, I have so much empathy for you, because you try all these things, right? And I work with my team and I'm like, these are our values. This is what we want to support organisations, workplaces, schools with. This is what I want them to feel, live, breathe. You never know how it comes across. And ultimately, it's not within our control.
Thank you. And on that note, taking on board that question, and just generally thinking, our whole VIP day, which is the day before the summit, is all women. It's hosted by Maria, and all the they're all female speakers. So, you know, I need to walk my walk, right? If I'm going to say, look, I would give up speaking if it meant more women would be on stage. And I mean that. I want my daughter to grow up, people like you, you know, she's 9, watching people like you, watching women on stage. I don't want to see only, you know, men. And so that's when I was like, wait a minute, then the VIP, like this year's man heavy. I was like, no, that's not okay. There's enough female leaders in our space to give them the space. And that really matters. So thank you. Yeah. Now we can move on to the application process. Tell us about that. Yes.
Okay. Oh, this is fascinating. I mean, the whole thing is fascinating, isn't it? I mean, it is. It's such a psychological experiment, because you've got to sit with yourself, and firstly you've got to think, I'm worthy enough to apply for this. Right, that's a baseline confidence level. Yes. I'm really thinking of your kind of people who are listening, who are aspiring to do this. And already at that point, so many doubts are going to jump in. And I've been speaking now professionally for nearly 10 years. And I worked in performance before that. So this is not an unusual space for me. I know I can speak on stage, right? And still, the process of applying my partner calls it face your demons. Like, it's easier to not apply. Right, it's easier because then you don't have to face those doubts and you can go along in ignorant bliss, and that's gorgeous. So you start the process, and what came through so strongly throughout the whole thing was the championing that you do. And I loved it. It was like, even though, as I said, I am a professional, I'm experienced in this world, I still benefited from that. Just kind of, you can apply, be yourself. I know be yourself is really hard, but be yourself anyway. Yeah, so in the application process, it was so gorgeous that you were championing, and and it just went through everything, every email, even the application form itself, all the videos, all the support. There was just this real sense of cheerleading and championing, and it felt very supportive. And it really reassured me, because I'm sure you've had this, you know, the idea of awards is weird, right? So my dad's in panic. And my dad once said to me, it's funny the work you do. We don't have awards about who's
maybe there's a gap
the best, you know. It's a very... I mean, yeah, Elliot, get on it next year, 2027. But, you know, there is something... No, I won't say there is. I'll ask. I'll stay curious. Is there something a little self-indulgent within our industry that we have things like awards? You know, question that wouldn't happen in, you know, construction or mechanics or whatever. And so there is this kind of caution when I apply for things or become involved in a community of what is really at the centre of this organisation's raison d'etre. Like, what are they doing it for? What's the point? And what came across in the application form is the point was the support, the nurturing, the community, and great, we're going to have a shiny day, which will be fabulous. It felt very much like that. And so what it meant was, on those days, because they will happen, and if you haven't applied before, this will happen, where you put it on your to-do list, and you're like, yeah, I'll apply for that award, that'd be great. And then life happens, and it's so easy to kind of go, actually, can't be bothered. And what I did then, and I think this is a useful tip, is I committed to doing it. So I sat with myself and went, do I really want to do this? Yes. Therefore, I am going to apply for this. Even if it's rushed, even if I have to do a thing, but I am going to do it. So the first thing is the commitment. You have to make a decision, because if you're going in and out, you just make the application process even more painful. So you sit with yourself and you commit. Once you've committed once, then you build in a structure of, okay, what support can I put in to do that? So if you're a solo worker, that could be just, you know, this is the allocated time. I'm going to switch off everything else, all notification, I'm going to do this application form. And it could be things like looking at what's the best environment for you to think about these things in. Do you need to go for a big walk? Do you need to go for a swim? Do you need to be sat at your desk with do not disturb on your door? Whatever it is. So you commit the time. And then if you've got, I mean, as I have built over the years, I've got support. So I actually just reached out to my VA at the time, and I said to her, right, I want to apply for these awards. Please put these many slots in my diary to do the application. Here's some like gumph that I've got to
footage,
find. Images, I can't remember what it was. Like there's some bits like things like, oh yeah, footages, images, testimonials, that kind of thing. I don't need to do. She can do it from our bank of stuff. So I was like, can you find all that stuff? So it just took the pressure off, so that my job was then to do what I do best. And then the decision I made in the application form was to have fun. And so, and I think that had come from the message you had put forward. I was feeling very much that message was aimed at new speakers, and confident speakers, but I decided to take that message as, maybe here I can play a bit and I can experiment a bit. And so what I did, I come from education and originally spoke on education. Increasingly over the last 2 years now, but it was 18 months at the time of applying, I've had increasingly other organisations, other workplaces say, well, actually what you're talking about in schools is really relevant to us and we need your help around behaviour, around team culture, etc. So that work has started to come, but I haven't actually advertised it yet. So I was in this kind of crux, and I thought, what if this gets to be really exciting. What if this application, just the process of doing this application form, is an opportunity for me to practice that, to practice speaking from, I've come from education and now I work across various industries and workplaces. Because I'd never actually said it out loud, even though the work was coming. So then I got to play with that, and oh my goodness, it was so exciting because it became, got to talk about my values, the social justice side of what I do, the community cohesion side of what I do, working with teams and groups and supporting lead, like all this kind of stuff. And I got to be quite honest. And I wonder if you've had this, Elliot, because sometimes you're known for speaking on one thing, but then your ideas have to be developing ahead of that to stop you going stale. But then there's almost like a lag of 6 months to a year, because marketing wise, people will be hiring you for the thing that you're known for, even though your development has moved. So I used it as an opportunity to let my bio particularly catch up with my thoughts and experiences and knowledge. So that got to be really fun. And then the last little bit about the form, and I shared this with one of my judges.
Oh, Sarah. We love that.
Sarah. I shared this with her. So the actual video that I did was a learning partnership in Bournemouth. It was an event there, and I hired a videographer and he recorded it for me. And being really honest,
interesting, isn't it? That's so interesting.
It wasn't my best gig, and that's okay, because I work from a principle of, I had a singing teacher years ago who said to me, Adele, if you were going to perform, you're not going, physically, no one can perform at 100% all the time. It's like, it's physically impossible, right? You're never always at 100%. She said, so you're good enough, like you're professionally good, hire me, I've ticked all the boxes, needs to be at 80%. So that when you have one of those fabulous days where the stars align and everything is just stunning, then you hit 100%. But even on the days when the train is late, you've left your opera dress on the train, may have done that. When you've got a cold, when you're on your period, when all the bad stuff's going on, your performance is still 80%. Like, that's the standard that I work with.
So you were talking about 80% when you've left the last thing you said is leaving your dress on the train.
On the train, regular occurrence. So I knew that this event that I'd done, it wasn't my best. So when I say it wasn't my best, it wasn't that it was awful. It's just that for me personally, it wasn't a PB, right? But it was good. It was enough. And I think we're probably talking to this later on, but as a craft, if you are a craftsperson who knows the structure of how to create a moving, inspiring, exciting talk, then you've also got that you're resting on, as well as just how you happen to turn up on the day. So, there's various elements there. Anyway, it was recorded. Okay, fine. The talk I did a keynote and workshops. It was about 2.5 hours, and we had 5 minutes we were allowed to send in?
Yeah, that's right, 5 minutes. For your category, it's 5 minutes. For TEDx, it's 8 to 10.
Yeah, that was hard. So originally I wasn't going to actually apply for the storytelling. This is the interesting bit. I was going to apply for another one. I can't remember what now. But as we went through the editing process, which was challenging, because you've really got to, what do they say? Let go of your darlings. Is that the thing? When you have to like kill your darlings in the creative process? Yeah,
it's basically go with your best stuff, not the stuff that makes you feel good, right? Yeah,
exactly. And as I was going through edit, by the way, there's another tip: leave time for editing your video.
Definitely for editing. Yes.
So as I was going through it more and more, it was just so clear that the story element was strong, but then there was this thing that was going, and I think this is what I mean about killing your darlings. Oh, but I love that other bit. And that other bit has a really strong point in. And I really
enjoyed that. Yeah.
Exactly. So what I did in the end is I called on a fellow speaker colleague, Dr. LJ Dukesbury. She's fab. Look her up. Her and I kind of, I was going to say bounce off each other. Is that what I mean? She's the person I will call and go, oh my goodness, this thing happened with speaking. What's your experience? How's your experience? And we have voice notes supporting each other that way.
That's so good to hear.
Really good. And I called her and I said, look, and she just had her She just had a baby, or her wife had birthed it. So they were really in like the thick of babiness. And I said, I know you've just had a baby.
The fog of baby, yes.
Yeah, she was. I said, if you haven't got space for this, like, don't worry. But is there any chance you can look at this? Because I can't see the wood for the trees now. And she just came back and she just went, you just need to tell the story. It just needs to be that. That's powerful. And bless her, thank you. She's got skills I don't have. She actually did some editing for me. So that was how we brought the video together. And then the other backstage story on this is, so I very rarely now look at all my feedback because after so many years, I've realised that the response I have to it is not always the most useful. So what I do now is my team filter it. So they will look for anything constructive, useful, that's going to improve the service, essentially, that I'm giving. And they will feed that back to me. They'll keep some really positive ones when I'm having a down day, and they'll just send them to me to cheer me up.
That's good. Very important, right?
Yeah. But the ones that are like, I wish I was in my classroom sorting my classroom out. Why did we have this talk today?
No. But that matters.
But when it's feedback like that, which is really feedback for the organisers rather than me, the personal speaker, when it's like, I could have been any speaker in that moment.
Exactly.
I don't necessarily need to read it all because, and this is actually something that was talked about as a subject in the summit, your protection of your
base,
energy, space, mind, focus is, I just can't emphasise enough how that becomes increasingly important. And so that's why I ask my team for the constructive feedback, and I receive that at a time when I am sat, I'm ready to take it, and we can look at it in a really objective way of how do we improve the service, rather than the minute I come off the stage, I'm full of emotions, and I read a feedback from someone saying whatever it is. That's not a useful time for feedback because I'm not regulated.
Because you'll zone in on that, and that's all. I think the tennis player said it best. I can see him, the Serbian one. Really famous. Why can't I think of names today? I struggle to remember my...
Djokovic.
I remember him saying the whole crowd can be cheering, but if one boos, that's all you hear. So it's a bit like that with feedback, right? You can have an amazing 99%, but when you're emotional, you're honing on that. Why is it not 100? Why is it not, that 1%? So I completely hear and feel you for that. Yes.
It's the negativity bias, and neurologically it's really useful for us because in our developmental way that we work in community societies, the negativity could have previously been the saber-toothed tiger. Right. To remember that the saber-toothed tiger is there would actually be really useful as a survival mechanism. Of course, our communities have developed, the way we work in society has developed. We live in a different way, most of us. Some people still are with the saber-toothed tigers. But psychologically, our brain development hasn't caught up. And that's why we have a negative bias. It protects us as a species. But knowing that information is super, super useful because if you know your brain is literally programmed to take more notice of negative feedback, that's why I then choose when to hear negative feedback when I'm not exactly as you say. I'm not in this like heightened
state of emotion. Yeah, absolutely.
I've just been on stage, darling. So all that to say, but we needed some testimonials for the application form, and I thought, well, it would be good to get some testimonials of the actual talk that I'm applying with. So I looked, which is very, very rare, and
go on. I feel there's a punchline coming.
There was this feedback from this chap. He said, "Dramatic pauses aren't my thing. I didn't like it."
Well, yeah, that's a personal preference.
And, it is. And I am sitting there and if you are doing this application now as you're listening to this or something similar, you will have a similar moment. It won't be exactly like this, but it'll be similar. So I'm sitting there doing an application form and I've kind of essentially going, can I win this award? Because we're visualising into, okay, what could be possible? What could happen here? And then I read about the video that I'm about to give you that essentially for this man, dramatic pauses weren't his thing and he didn't like it. And I had a moment. Now, I have so much support. I've built in coaches and my team and things, and I've built that in over the years. I'm able now to work with that and I have the tools to do so.
Yeah.
So it maybe took me about an hour to just go, ow, ow.
Yeah.
I'm a rubbish speaker. I must never speak again. I must never put a pause in my speaking. You know, you've been there, I assume.
Yeah, of course, definitely.
But then to move that from, that's one man's opinion, it's one of many, and then going back to what you were talking about with Djokovic, that the whole audience could have been thinking X, but if somebody else is thinking Y, it is that you're going to listen to. But I thought it was fascinating that as a process, that came up just as I was in the application process. It was, and I almost think, I mean, this is how I experience life, is that when you are doing something out of your comfort zone, like applying for an award, there will be things that will come up that almost go, are you sure? Just stay where you are. And again, neurologically, there's, you know, this makes complete sense because our brain is trying to keep us safe, and safe is what we know. The unknown is unsafe to our brain, right? So it makes complete sense. But there was a real decision moment, and I used my tools and my support and my coaching and, you know, all the rest, and I was able to go, okay, that hurts, and that's okay. Because I'm human, that is going to hurt because that's negative. And I love my dramatic pauses. But is not, what's the thing where you get graphs like cause and relation? I'm saying this wrong now.
Cause and effect?
Yes. So his feedback was not going to affect the application.
Right.
That was the fact.
But also it's an opinion, right? I think also if you zoom out, it's not his thing. It's not a reflection on you or your speaking, right? So, you know, and again, just because someone has an opinion doesn't make it fact, period, right? And I think a lot of times we get stuck in opinion versus fact. So pauses are not his thing. Great, go and see a rapper who won't pause, right? Or, you know, go see a different speaker that talk like Dr. John Martini that doesn't stop speaking for 2 hours. Go watch him because he doesn't pause. So yes, I think also you have to, I often say this to my wife as well, you've got to zoom out when you're looking at like what are they actually saying. But I get it because you're in a heightened, you're really focused, you're envisioning winning, and boom. And I think a great point is whenever we seem to want to step up, you know, go to another level spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, I think, this is just my opinion, not fact, that the universe, the higher power, God, whatever you want, will always send you certain obstacles to test you. Do you really want this? Yeah. And that was your little test. Do you really want this? Yeah. Right. Yes.
Absolutely. And I feel like they can be some of the most important moments because, as I said, at the start of the application form, I committed. But one of my coaches, Susie Ashworth, she always talks about, we think that we commit to something once, like, you know, I'm going to apply for this award. I'm going to bring in X amount per month. I'm going to commit to that. But actually, you have to commit again and 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 again. And eventually committing again and again gets slightly easier. But you do have to keep committing.
Correct.
And that was one of those.
Yeah, and I think that's what I mean. All these little tests is like, how committed are you really? I think a lot of people sometimes think in montages, they'll make the commitment and everything will just like fall in line. It doesn't happen that way. It never does. Very rarely. Yeah, some people just make a decision, boom, boom, boom. They're just kind of that 0.001% who everything just falls in their lap, right? So I think absolutely you have to commit again and again and again. So you committed again and you overcame the feedback and then you press submit. I take it? Is that right? You press submit. And then did you show up for the reveal call when we let people know if they're shortlisted or not, or did you listen to the replay? Yes, she's one of the sponsors this year. Yeah.
Is she? Oh, she's so fabulous. Yes. So she is in a space with one of my coaching spaces. So I coach with Yinka Ewola, who does business strategy and...
Oh, I know Yinka, yeah.
...for women. Akua is in that space. I'm in that space. And Akua, brilliant woman.
Yeah.
She was messaging me saying, you know, you've been nominated. So I actually heard it from her first before I was able to do it, and then I went to try and get the replay like immediately because I was like, oh, you know, you don't want to really believe it until you've seen it. But I think it just took a while to get the replay loaded. It probably was half an hour, Elliot, but when you're waiting for news, So yes, thank you to Akua. Shout out to Akua.
Yeah, so she's involved. She's sponsoring the Speaker Summit, not the awards. But yeah, she is fantastic. So you heard it from her first. Then you run to the replay. I guess you fast forward all the other stuff to your category, and you're seeing the name, and then. So from that moment, tell me what went on for you. You like, because no one can take away that you're shortlisted, right? So you've already achieved something. Right?
Yeah. What I noticed was that there was the most shortlisted people in my category.
So the hardest category.
Yes. So then I looked
yours was the busiest. Yeah. One of the busiest. Yes.
There was, I don't know, was it like getting on? It was over 10, I think, in that one. Whereas some other categories there was only about 5.
Yeah, because what we do, and this is some insight for you and for everyone listening and watching, is we actually look at. So when all the judges, so first round is a blind judging. They just see the videos, no conversations with other judges, and they score accordingly, and then they put forward who their lists are, right, and who they feel should be shortlisted. But what we do then is we look at the actual marks, and then we draw a line going, anyone below this doesn't qualify, and we go because actually the ones in this area are so much better, or they're just, come across stronger. In your case, in the storytelling, A, there were so many, but B, the difference between first and 10th in your category, I recall, is 1.5 in the marks. And then it dropped dramatically, right? That's why we're like, look, from 10th to 11th, there's a big gap. And that's why we're like, okay, this year they didn't make it. And that's why yours had 10, because we couldn't justify cutting 7th, 8th, or 9th, or 10th, because it was so tight. So there you go. There's some insight for you.
Thank you. So once I saw that, I went, okay, fair enough. Statistically, I won't win.
Really? And what's the statistic based on? What was the formula you came up with?
It's called heart maths.
Is it? If I set myself up not to win, I won't be disappointed maths. Is that the one? Maths?
Probably. No, I think at that point it is so great to be shortlisted. I get to be in that room. I'm going to be in that room. I wanted to go to the summit anyway. And at that point, I went, okay, I've done everything I can.
Yep. True.
And so it was a real let go. Go and enjoy the day. And you will recall, and I want you to talk into this bit, you will recall the moment that I won, and you said to me, you looked as if you didn't believe it.
Exactly. I remember it very, very clearly. I remember most people's faces, because most people don't, but they had this numbness. And I'm like, why they don't look more excited? I mean, Bruce, when he won, he was like, yay! He was kind of big, loud. But everyone, you were like, I was like, are you, what's going on? Tell us. So yeah, you arrive at the evening, you're sitting at a table, you're connecting with the community, you're getting to know your table. Obviously we do the meal first, and then we do the awards, right? So it comes up to your category, you see the names, and they say your name. Boom. Because you must have gone through, wait a minute, they've announced the highly commended, and that's not you. Oh, that's it. Did you do one of those? I haven't won. Okay, take us to that moment before you win. Yeah. So
I was sat on the table. I brought with me my ops manager, Hannah John. She's ops and business development, because, we were allowed a +1, and my partner's not into these things. Basically, she's
fair enough.
She works in architecture, and she's just like, nah, I don't need to be in that sort of thing. So I took Hannah, and also I actually met Hannah at the other award that I won. You can see them both up here. Here's your award.
Oh, hello.
And then this one I won for my work in education, and Hannah won at the time an award for her work in the charity sector. So that's where I met Hannah. So I said, okay, a little bit of a, like an anniversary.
Nostalgic.
Yeah. Do you want to come to this with me? Plus, then my marketing manager, Susan, was like, okay, Hannah, if you're going, can you get this video of Adele doing this and this picture of her doing this? And so she had this whole list of marketing stuff she had to do. So I had her with me, and I was so, again, it's like that conscious building in what you need. And I think as a speaker in general, you need to do that because no one else will advocate it for you. I mean, I've got Claire who does, in some ways, but also as a speaker, it's such a solo thing. Just have to, wherever you can, think, what would be the ideal way to do this event or this thing? And you might not always be able to get the ideal because maybe it's too much money or whatever, but okay, I can't do that massive thing, but what would be the 1% of what I could do? So again, it's real conscious building in of support and community. And that's why I brought Hannah, because, so the highly commendeds went up. And remind me who the highly commendeds were?
Now you're testing me. I can't, at this point, I can't remember the top of my head. But
all right, that's right.
Was Ben Sherman one of them? I can't remember. Go for it.
I had spoken to one of the ladies, and we are going to have to find out her name before the end of this. I'd spoken to her at lunch, and her and I had really connected because we were both completely bamboozled by one of the training talks that had been on earlier in the summer. And we were both like, what is that? Is that really the world? Yeah.
Is that yeah.
We were just both like, it was bonkers. Both her and I, we had this really great bonding moment. It was just like, oh, we're really in the same realm, speaking on the same way. And she was highly commended, and I thought, I understand that. Even though I hadn't seen her talk, you just know, don't you? You can just feel.
Yeah, you get.
It was like I'd want to see her on stage. So wow. I'd already felt that. So when she got highly commended, I thought, brilliant. Okay, cool. Yes, and then they said my name, and then what happens to me in these very heightened emotional things, the exact same thing that happens to me when I'm on a roller coaster, is I go really quiet, I go into freeze. Okay. I go into freeze, you will have seen. I go into freeze, I start crying, I start shaking, and my stomach just goes, which is exactly the same as on a roller coaster. So I'm not on a roller coaster going, I'm now going,
gosh, okay, interesting.
I'm in the freeze response of the options of response in heightened emotion. So that's what happened. And then of course, you've got this really weird thing where externally you're being asked to walk in front of the audience. Yeah. And, like you said, logically, you would think there would be elation.
Right, that's what I think. But, I'm not experiencing getting an award, so I guess. Yeah.
So at that point, I'm in freeze. And, biologically, neurologically, when we are in freeze, we're frozen.
Yeah.
So at that point, I'm there just kind of going, right, okay, stand over there, Adele, have the photo stand. And at that point, I'm not even with it, really, because I can't. And then, so we did that part, and then they take you off to the side. And then we went to have a little chat with the chap who was filming there. And Hannah had come round, because she knows me, she'd come round to meet me kind of off stage that side. And then she was doing a little video for my marketing, and she was going, so Adele, 3 words, how does it feel to win? And I just burst into tears. No. She was really funny. She said, and here we are, we have a speaker's winner who has no words.
Yes.
I just couldn't, I couldn't articulate.
Yeah, understandable. Especially as, hearing your kind of what you've put into the process. And then to win, I can understand why there's this big emotional release. It clearly means a lot. And it means a lot to everyone I've interviewed, and even previous years, even ones that aren't on the podcast, I just know it means a lot to them. So I get why you might, and that's probably your release. Like, yes.
Yes. I think there's something weird as well. I'm going to tell you a secret.
Okay.
Winning awards, so I've won 2.
Yes.
As a professional in this, this world, I won some when I was little as well, but like these kind of adult awards, right? They really confuse me, Elliot, because the times that I do the work that is the most challenging is when I have a CEO, a head teacher, in tears, completely on the edge. I'm facilitating something like that. I know that our education system is broken. I can see the detrimental impact on children, employees. Yeah. And sometimes I come out of doing a piece of work like that, where essentially a whole workplace or a whole school can be completely what I would call dysregulated, anxious, stressed, lack of resources, lack of budget, lack of time, beating themselves up for not getting it right, etc., etc., etc. And I come back home, nothing happens, right? And I try to explain to my partner, she works in a different industry, she's empathetic as a partner, but she doesn't get it. And in those moments, I know on those days that I will have done such an important piece of work.
Right.
And yet I come back and it's like, have you fed the dog? Have you put the recipient out? Right?
Yeah.
And this is what confuses me about awards, is because, and this is what I said to Hannah, like later on when I started defrosting, but applying for that award and doing that award was easy compared to the work I do on the ground. And so unpick my childhood however you like, but so in my logical brain, it's like almost
mismatch.
Mismatch, that I would get an award for something that's so glamorous and shiny and easy, actually, and fun. Mm-hmm. And yet on the days where I see the worst side of humanity, education, etc., then, someone still pushes in front of me as I'm trying to get on the train home. I get home and I've still got to go and get the spare keys off the neighbour. And there's no acknowledgement. There's zero acknowledgement.
Yeah.
And I find that really weird, because why would I get an accolade for the bit that seems easy when the bit that seems hard is unacknowledged? And I was unpacking this with Hannah, and her take on it was, and I think this is right, the award isn't about those 5 minutes I gave you. Really.
Of course not. Right.
Because those 5 minutes that I gave you would not have been possible without all of the other stuff and all of the other things. So essentially it feels like on paper that you're doing one application form with a bio, testimonials and a video, but they actually just represent a body of commitment, dedication, work, tears, blood, sweat, and joy and fun and all the rest of it. But it's this tiny bit, but I think I still haven't squared that peg, and I don't know if I ever will. Why am I getting an award now? Because I haven't really done anything compared to when, in other situations. And I don't really understand that, Elliot.
Okay. I think, Hannah was completely correct, because that award behind you is a physical representation of all the no's and all the rejections and all the heartbreak and everything you do day in, day out. Now, you backed yourself enough to go through a process to expose yourself to potential acknowledgement, and you could have not, right? You could have not made it to the shortlist. You could have not made it onto the podium, right? And I think and that's what this is about. So if anything, I think it's an acknowledgement to keep going, because it matters, right? And if you think your category was so competitive, so busy, and you came up on top, it's a snapshot in time, right? We don't know if you entered again. You can't anyway this year, because if you've won, you can't re-enter. But if you entered another, you get anywhere. And I just think for you to almost go, there's clearly a message here. There's a higher message. And these are people that they don't know you. They don't owe you anything, right? And so when they've watched your stuff, they've gone, there's something here that's worth acknowledging, and you ended up winning. And I think that's the way to see it. Typically if we go back let's go back to tennis, all the shots you miss, all the balls you don't hit back, right? Everyone sees Wimbledon champion way, but no one sees all the times you got knocked out first round or didn't even make it, that you're, all those bits and bobs. And I think if you kind of look at it as part of a big zooming out picture, you'll see this is a nice cornerstone, a nice stamp to keep going, if anything. And, and I think to be acknowledged by peers, people that don't know you, that just see your pure work, I think that's the way to kind of view it. And anybody that's winning or even entering the awards. And the fact that people enter and don't get anywhere, that doesn't suddenly make them bad or crap or irrelevant. It just means at that moment, at that time, it didn't stand out for those looking. And that's something we say again throughout, just back yourself to go through the process. So for you, I think, because remember, I don't know where you are it sounds like you're very spiritual and you're very into sort of various laws. And I think just remember that what we put out there, we get back. So if we're putting out that I'm not acknowledging this yet, then you won't get the acknowledgement coming to you. Do you see? Because you're putting some form, or maybe work with Yinka on this, because I know she's massively into this kind of realm. Maybe that's probably why, and I get you. And you said this at the beginning. I get the empty hotel rooms. I get the I'm going to go do a talk tomorrow, drive back 3.5 hours, and then it'll be like, okay, can you help with bedtime? I think we have to accept the polarity of being a professional speaker, right? And the polarity is for 45 minutes or even a day, everyone loves you, and you're as long as you're lovable and you do a good job, right? But then life keeps going. Unless you're some mega A-lister celebrity that's continuously surrounded by glamour and fame, this is the life of a professional speaker. Mm-hmm. There's only so many hotel rooms, right? There's only so many, lonely nights. And it just becomes another hotel. Doesn't matter if it's a 5-star hotel or a Premier Inn. It's a room which you sleep in, and then you go and people love you and you come home. And I think there needs to be an element of acceptance for what you're saying, of the polarities, but also of our ability to be acknowledged in the quiet side. So you don't see the work you've done, but it doesn't mean it doesn't matter. And I'll give you an example before we move on. You've really kind of inspired me to share all this.
Good.
No, this is great. And thank you for being so honest and vulnerable. It's so nice to see. Yesterday I got a message from a guy I work with. I coached him on his TEDx. And then he messaged us to say Gareth Southgate has watched his TEDx, right? And because he's big in the NEAT space. So I think you two should connect, right? He was a former footballer. He got dropped overnight. Young footballer, not an established one at that point. Suddenly his whole life, and he became NEAT, right? I can't remember the exact abbreviation. Something, education and training. Anyway, it stands for something. I'll find out what exactly. Can you remember what it is exactly, NEAT?
No, it's more. They use it a lot in Scotland, but I know what it is. Yes.
Yes. So basically, you're not skilled. You're not skilled. There's a million youth. Alex Atherton spoke about this as well. And they're considered. So he did this whole reframe that what if NEAT stood for something more empowering. Anyway, Gareth Southgate's watched it, and now he's on his. Now, if he not shared that would have still happened, right? Mm-hmm. And our work still means something, even when people don't share these things. You shared something in the beginning that I wasn't aware of. But this is the whole point. We have to almost not be selfless, because I think that's just detrimental to us. But we have to accept that a lot of our good work is unheard, is unseen, is unacknowledged. And when we accept that as professional speakers or visionaries or leaders, then actually, since I've accepted that, I'm okay. Then I don't get disappointed when someone doesn't do something or doesn't acknowledge me, when they just kind of move on to the next person. Great. That's our roles as facilitators.
Yes.
So I hope that makes sense. I know.
Yeah.
So,
thank you, Elliot. I don't usually get coached when I'm interviewed, so thank you.
I didn't mean to. Sorry, I didn't solicit coaching there. I was just sharing my view. I hope that was okay, and you don't feel
it was really good, and I think this is why, kudos for you for putting the podcast out and all of it, because where else do you have these conversations? Really, right. It's great to do that. And I think that the way that I love what you've said about the polarities, right? That we do have a polarity. And I think that is something over the years that gets easier and easier. Right. Definitely. I remember when I first started, and the first couple of speaking gigs I did, and I'd come back and it'd be like 2 days of going, oh!
Yeah, right.
Whereas now that juxtaposition of being literally the centre of the room to mundane life, I think it becomes easier over time, doesn't it? Because essentially it becomes your job. And then I think what you said about acceptance was really key, because it becomes your job, and then you make a decision. Do I want this to be my job or don't I? No one's forcing you to do it, right? So, well, hopefully no one's forcing you to do it. So the reason, I think it's worth sharing here, the thing that motivates me to want to go for awards and things as well is because a huge part of my being and reason for being here is to build bridges between people and build platforms for other people to walk on. Now, the story that I shared in the awards was about a young person, we call him Max, obviously not his real name, who was, I'm just thinking about how much I love him. He's hilarious. And all of the young people like this. I was working in a school with children who've been excluded from mainstream. So he was known by the local police, he was in care, etc. That, in fact, if you want to see the entry, that is on YouTube. The actual entry I gave you, I've actually left it on YouTube as well now, so if people want to watch it. But the point is, the way that I got over that conundrum that I'm working with in my head, the way that I got past that to do the application form, was that lad is, I'm not going to say never, but highly unlikely to ever have the platform to tell his story about why he is disengaged with education, about what he's been through and why that affects him. You know, I really hope that one day somewhere in his adulthood he finds a way through. The last I heard, he really, really hasn't. And so that's where I click in, and that's where my social activism kicks in. And I say, okay, and it's similar to you actually, as in my ideal world, it would be Max telling his own story as a kid in care, as a kid who has been through trauma, abuse, neglect, as a kid who is struggling with the education system. In my ideal world, he would be telling his own story. That's his story to tell. Right. But because that's not possible at this moment, I am going to go forwards, take that place on the platform, on the stage, and share his story from what I know of it. And one of the things, I mean, I get this feedback all over the place in the places that I support and work in the schools, is that one of my real skill sets is to break down barriers and build bridges. So to help people from different walks of life, from different communities, whatever you want to call it, to find this shared humanity between us. So, and I love it and I really enjoy it. So to be able to bring Max onto the stage in that way, I didn't bring him physically. I mean, my physicality brought him in.
You became his voice, right?
Yeah. You'll see him and hear his language. But I will have brought Max to people in a way, to some people who would cross the road from Max in reality. Because they would see an angry, aggressive, actually quite tall, intimidating teenage lad effing and jeffing on the street. They would cross the street. Right. So they wouldn't be able to connect with him and his humanity. There would be an us and them, an other. Right. Whereas I get the absolute honour, and this tingle time, I get the honour of being able to share Max and Max's joy and Max's beauty and Max's vulnerability and everything that Max has to give to the world with an audience who perhaps otherwise wouldn't give him the time of day. Now, I have this, my team think I'm slightly naive, but I have this vision that AB Education, Adele Bates Education, so that's my company, we are about supporting workplaces and schools to further this kind of community coherence, the social justice, to have that inclusion, to understand human behaviour. But my kind of unofficial tagline is, and we prevent wars. Okay. Because I've got this radical idea that if we knew how to be in space with people who we disagree with, if we knew how to safely go, you know what, you've got this opinion, I've got this opinion, but we can still work together on this project or this element, or there's something about you I don't understand and that scares me, but that's okay, I don't need to destroy you over it.
Correct.
I feel like that if we could foster that in our schools, in our workplaces, in our colleges, then people it's a fact that people are less likely to attack, and whether that's attack in throwing their pencil sharpener at them, or whether it's attack because we have some little boys who are very angry who have big red buttons available to them in this world, who have an insane amount of power. Now, it's very interesting because some of the behaviour I see from those little boys are like my year 9s, Elliot. The actual behaviour that is playing out on our world stages in leadership is exactly the same as I'm seeing in the schoolyard. It's exactly the same as I'm seeing at the water cooler in a workplace. So my unofficial tagline is, we're going to prevent wars.
I like that. Preventing wars is good. Actually, I jumped on a call with a guy from LinkedIn. He just reminded me, really, just connected with me. He said, I always connect with you. I'd like to have a call. So I said, you know what, let's do it. So we talked about what we did and all that stuff. And in the end, he said, if I had a magic wand and I could make everything come true, what would you like? And I said, in what context? And he said, whatever context you want. And the first thing I said is unconditional peace, right? So peace is unconditional. There's only peace if that, there is world peace and it's unconditional from any side. Peace is peace. So I love that. And you prevent wars. I think that's really cool and really lovely in that respect.
Come on, team. Come on.
Let's do this, right?
We you can see how, because that is in me so strongly, you can see how that helps me square the peg and get over myself to apply for an award.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, this award isn't for me. This award is to bring people together. It's like, I happen to have this stage right now. It's like you were saying, it's like you will step on the stage and do your speaking. Really, you want to see a world in which there's a more equal range of genders on stage. So you will step aside and let the woman, non-binary person go and do that. But if those people aren't there and it's a context where you are the person, if you don't grab it, that's daft. You know, we have, you know, people like us who have influence and capacity, and let's use the word power in some ways. Yeah. It's a privilege to be able to use those spaces. And if we were to not use those spaces, then that's daft in, you know, in the other way. So it's like, I feel very much that where we're able to, we take that capacity, we take that influence where it's right and correct and within integrity, and then we call everybody else on, you know, on stage. Exactly. And for me, especially the people whose voices we don't necessarily hear, like Max's. So that's then the impetus that allows me to do the kind of more outward show.
Yeah, sure. So since winning the awards, what's been different for you as a professional speaker? How do you think it's changed things for you, professionally, booking-wise, fee-wise, anything-wise?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I put my fees up. I mean, that's an annual thing I do anyway, but it kind of just reminded me to do it, so that's a good thing. Always a good thing. And I think also, this is a good kind of reveal. I don't think this kind of accumulates with everything else we've been talking about. It's not like you win an award and your life changes. And I think that it's not like I won that award and went, oh, now life is solved and I have all the perfect bookings that I want. You know, that's not how these things work. But what it does is it is another brick in, one, personally, my confidence and my reputation, my, you know, accreditation, things like that. I got invited onto Sarah's podcast, which was just gorgeous. I really enjoyed.
Sorry, they broke up there. Can you repeat that for me? I got invited to
Sarah's podcast. One of the judges. Yes. She invited me on. Yes, and that was gorgeous. Really lovely to do. So I wouldn't say as of yet it's kind of shifted things, but also I talked about earlier that 6 month to a year lag. Yes. And I'm very used to this in business. So there are people now who say to me things like, oh, I saw you won that education award. I won the education award in 2022. Yeah. And yet I'll have people coming today to talk about that. You know, so I'm not, this is like the ego burst thing from my experience. It's like you come out, you've won this award, you're like, ah, and then lots of people have never even heard of the award. So
but you're an award winner. That's what people.
I'm an award winner, exactly, and I'm now a multi-award winner. And then you put that next to being an author and soon to be multi-book author. How do you say that? I don't know. And what it just does each time is it just, if you allow it to really penetrate your being and your cells, it enables you to, well, I can't say you, it enabled me, just these little bits that you gain along the way. And an award's like a really big brick, but it is still only one brick along with all the other bricks. But what it does is over time is it allows you to saturate your being with that message of, okay, I'm doing some decent stuff here. So actually, I can apply for that. I can put my fees up. I can approach this person who I've been scared to approach, or this organisation, or whatever it is. And it just kind of chips away in that way. My guess is, I don't know, intuition, probably a better word, is that within the next year or something, there'll be more that comes back from getting the Speakers Award. I think that's my experience of business and work. It's very, very rare. It's like the day that my book launch happened. You do this great book launch and you're like, oh my goodness, I've published a book. And then the life goes on. But then a year later, I'll get a head teacher who'll call and say, we've read your book. We want you and your team to work for us for the next year. Boom. There you go. That's a huge contract for my team and for us, right? So it's all that accumulation of, and I think again, it talks into that bit we were talking about before between holding the polarities, and it's not linear. It's not like you win this thing and then all these things happen immediately, but it galvanizes and it grows and it strengthens.
It's all part of the quiet momentum, right? So, well, not so quiet, but quiet. So, yeah, no, really love that. So, let's talk about the theory you've kind of given away, like something you haven't shared before that but what I really want to, let's hear about the second book. Tell us what it's, don't give us away, but tell us about it. And then, of course, let us know if there's like a link to start building up your waiting list. We'll put that in the notes, but tell us about your second book. I'm interested. What's that all about?
We start with the second one by starting with the first one. Hang on.
Yes, go for it.
So this is the first one.
For those of you listening, she's showing her book. Miss, I don't give a beep.
Are you not allowed to swear?
Yeah, swear. We're all adults.
Miss,
it's hardly a bad word, is it?
No. Miss, I don't give a shit engaging with challenging behaviour in schools. So this is really a guide for teachers and teaching staff, people in schools, to support young people with behaviour across our education system. So that came out 3-4 years ago. And became one of the best sellers for our publishers, which was amazing for a first-time education author. And I think it's mainly because of the title.
Probably. But the content has to be pretty good too, so you've done well.
Yes. It's the feedback I've had, yes. So this is really a kind of guide for classroom practice, essentially. And then the second book is really leaping on from where that one left off. So this, in the first book, there's one chapter about, but how do you do this over a whole organisation, not just an individual teaching assistant or teacher in a classroom. So this is really where the second book sits. The title is yet to be revealed. It is as fabulous as you can imagine. It took us a little while just to make sure we had such a stonking title as that one, but we did find it. So the second book is co-authored with my Welsh associate, Keith, because he's worked in senior leadership for 20 years. He was a head teacher of a school for a residential children's school for SEMH. And so I knew that the leadership book had to be written. Like, that was just so obvious. And the publishers were talking to me every year going, Adele, have you got the second book? Have you got the second book? And the thing is, at that point, I was doing a lot more speaking work, and I have kind of middle leadership experience in schools. I don't have senior leadership experience in schools. I have leadership experience outside of schools, but not in schools. So I felt very much like I can't write this whole book. There was this real feeling of it needs to be a head teacher's voice. It's got to be in there, because that's kind of what it is. And then I hired Keith about a year and a half ago to specifically work in our schools in Wales and the North. He's based in Wales. We get a lot of work. We work with a lot of schools in Wales. And so there was actually a written component as part of his interview, like a task before we interviewed him. And I read it and I thought, he can write as well. So then I called the publishers and I said, that second book you want me to write? How would you feel if it was co-authored? I've got this new associate. I think he has the piece that would complement what I've got. Yeah. And the publishers got very excited because they said, well, what this could actually be is for different topics. You could have different books co-authored with different people. To which I said, like Harry Enfield and Chums. That is about a 90s, 2000s reference. Go and look it up. But the publishers said, well, that wasn't exactly what we had in mind, but that kind of principle. So what's really exciting now is there's this kind of freedom to go, and again, this is the same thread, Elliot, of I know that school leaders, college leaders, and actually workplace leaders are desperate for this kind of support on how to shift, maintain, hold a behaviour culture across an organisation. Right, so we're not talking about the individual bits with the pupils, but like, how do you hold that as a leader? How do you bring your staff on board? How do you get your team going forwards? How do you, support your stuck in the muds who don't want to follow your vision? How do you go keep it going? How do you do all that when there's budget restrictions, when there's government restrictions, etc. So this book now has been able to happen because it's been a collaboration of both myself and Keith. Keith's last name, really annoyingly, is the same as mine.
Really?
Really annoying. And Hannah asked him to change his name in the interview, and he hasn't changed his name.
So rude.
Yeah, but we're not related.
I think we need to drop him. That's it.
I know.
He needs to go.
I do. I need to take my partner's name. Her last name is Zykova.
There we go. That would change things, wouldn't it? But your whole brand is built around your name, so that would be a whole mess.
This is the thing now. It's like professionally, I'm Adele Bates. So anyway, so the book comes out September 2026. If you want to get on the waiting list, which has already started, which is gorgeous, just drop us a message on the contact page on my website and just put in the title book waiting list, and you'll be the first to hear of all the goodies and freebies and events that we'll be doing as part of that.
Amazing. So on that note, excuse me, I don't know about you. In our house, the kitchen table is a hub of creativity, visionary, food. Everything seems to center around our kitchen table in our house. I've got a 6 and 9-year-old. It's where I talk with my wife about the future, our future, her future, finance. It all happens around the kitchen table, right? As much as I've tried to move it off the kitchen table, I've tried to move the kids to an arts corner, to go over there, it always ends up on the kitchen table. So being nosy, what's on your kitchen table?
Well, first of all, I live in a flat, so we don't really have that space. So let me just get my space sorted before I answer the question.
Okay. The equivalent of.
I think what we do a lot of our thinking like that in bed, and we have the best conversations, and not because they're great, they're all great, but because we get out. This is my partner's Bulgarian, and there's this fantastic saying in Bulgarian: we need to clean the sheets. And what it means is we need to have the conversations that we're not having. You know, we need to get it all out. Get it all out on the table is probably what our phrase would be, wouldn't it? Get it all out on the table.
Put it all on the table, clean it.
Yeah, and then our little rescue doggy Svobodka, we'll put the blanket on, so because she's only allowed on the bed if there's a blanket. Does that not always happen, Elliot? Anyway,
yes.
You wanted an insight.
I am. Yeah, I'm getting it. It's interesting.
Yeah. So I would say it's there that we will have our conversations, everything from do you believe in God to have you booked the train that we need for the thing that we're doing next week? Have you given the dog her flea tablets? Have you?
Everything.
Yeah, everything. And I think what's special about that space that doesn't happen in other spaces for us is it's less of, oh, this is what's happening at work.
Right. You know, yeah, exactly.
As you can tell, I mean, you may be able to guess, it can be a challenge for me to stop thinking about work because it is so rooted in my being of how I live and breathe and who I am. So that conundrum of where I end and where the work starts and where the work infiltrates, you know, that kind of thing. It's actually really useful that my partner isn't in my industry at all, because she will brilliantly and lovingly say, oh yeah, that sounds hard, but she won't be able to take it further, which is sometimes really, for me that's really healthy in my home. It's healthy.
Okay.
It used to be frustrating before I had colleagues, support, coaches, people that I reach out to. Now what's perfect is home gets to be home.
Yes, and that means a lot.
Oh my goodness. And then we get to have them, like we just get to giggle about really daft things, and we get to have the pleasure of watching the sunrise each morning, and it's different, and it rises in our window in our bedroom. And those kind of things, which if I were living with someone like yourself, I would not switch on. Like it would be, if I was living, my friend Dr. LJ Dukesbury, who I mentioned before, like her and I have said, if we ever went, it would just be like, bah, 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 bah. It'd be like being on tour. I've done like tours, like I've done a show run at Edinburgh Fringe, and just for 3 weeks, you're not eating, you're performing, and if you're not performing, you're talking about performance, and it is absolutely gorgeous, and it's a huge part of me, but it's not all of who I am, and so I am hugely grateful to have that space, and I'm really feel very lucky that I have this partner who can say to me, it's time to switch off now.
That's good. In essence, your kitchen table is in bed.
Yeah, I think so. We have those conversations, and I think it's really weird how I'm 40 now, and I think as I grow in age, how much more value those moments have become. When I was younger, it was all about, I need to go out, I need to do everything and achieve everything. And of course I still have that in me, but now it's like, I have done those things. I have a beautiful, rich accolade of experience.
Yeah.
And also, we have the cutest dog, and look at how she's doing this thing with her paw. And that balance, I think, is making me slightly more palatable.
I love that. I think it's quite interesting to hear that, because I agree, like the older I've got, the more disconnect I want from what I do, and certain parts of my life to be not to do with that. I even though it's sort of the height when I was single and I was living with, other mates, I still really valued the time they would watch rugby. They would sit and watch rugby. And I didn't know anything about rugby. I still pretty much don't know much about rugby. But I really valued that became our meeting point once we all moved out. We all would meet for rugby. And I really value, and that's what I like about football, and a lot of people are Marmite about football, is it's 90 minutes of nothing that I can do about it, and I can enjoy it, and the outcome will be the outcome. And I think it's important to have those down times. Like now in the evening, there comes a point I put my phone away and it's done. I won't look at it till the next day. I have young kids as well. So I've got a puppy by a son called Elijah. He's 6, so he's our puppy.
Yeah.
He needs walking twice a day, these little bits. But yeah, I think as you grow older, you really cherish the times away. So yes, I do think about my business a lot, but I do also value the off button. And I think that's really important. Actually, today, I recorded like a impromptu thing on YouTube, and I've been talking about it. I think if you've been seeing the emails about quiet momentum, about not burning out too quickly, right?
Yes.
Which I'm seeing already, a lot of noise and people like this and this, and like, oh my God, you're going to burn yourself out. So downtime doesn't mean lazy, and I think that can often equate to that in the space we're in, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, if I was going to say, if you look at my schedule and look at what would be in place for hobby, I'm also a borough councillor for the Green Party. So, I mean, last night was in a 3.5 hour chamber council meeting. They are also intense, and they also light me up in all the brilliant social justice ways that I want to. But it does just mean that I have to be so intentional about, if I'm working in my business in the day and I'm doing council meetings in the evening, then where have I gone?
So, as we start to finish up, why should, in your mind, in a couple of sentences, why should people go for the awards? Like, what would you say to, if they just caught this last bit, they're like, oh, I'm just going to fast forward to the end, what would be your kind of parting message to anyone thinking about the awards, applying for the awards, skeptical of the awards?
My question would be, why not? And the answer to that will give you the reason. So if you think, why not? Oh, because I'm not blur enough, or whatever it is. Then you get to use it as an opportunity to play with that and to move through it. So there's not really anything you lose from applying. So why not would be my biggest idea. And I think there's so many examples as well of people who've applied, got on board. Maybe they weren't shortlisted, but they're still part of the community. There's still things happening. I mean, wasn't it Akua? Let's go back to Akua. Wasn't it Akua who wasn't shortlisted but managed to but some work came out of it anyway? Yeah.
And there's also Vanessa Stroman. This year she showed up. She wasn't. I think she won one year, and then last year she nothing. But she still showed up, and she walked out with 2 bureaus and a manager.
Yeah.
So absolutely for the community.
Why not?
Absolutely, I agree. So Adele, thank you so much for being so open, so honest. I've truly enjoyed interviewing you. I'd look forward to interviewing again. We're going to talk about your other work another time. In the meantime, keep doing the amazing work you're doing. Keep speaking on behalf of the Maxes of the world. And I love this. Let's stop war. Let's make more peace. Thank you for being with us today. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I will see you very soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Front Row Podcast. Remember to like, subscribe and comment. It's through your feedback that we grow. We hope you've taken lots of notes, benefited from the wisdom, and are now going to turn everything into action. Remember to keep an eye out for our next episode of the Front Row Podcast. And remember to like, subscribe, and of course leave us a 5-star review. We look forward to connecting with you and hearing the progress of your journey in the professional speaking world. Tune in next time for the Front Row Podcast.